morning, grade 3 and 4. It is Thursday, May 7th, 2020, 5-7-20. You're continuing your story of the new temple, new wall in your Bible storybooks. Make sure that you do what it asks you to do in the questions there. It asks you to go back, I think it's page 128, and look at some things from some of our past stories. Memory treasure to tell me today, Psalm 122, verse 1. Some of you haven't done your AR test on Mother to Tigers yet, so make sure you read that story in your hardcover book and take the AR test on it. Another epic book to read today and an AR test on that as well, and then your final page in your spelling packet. And remember, those are all to be cursive, okay? You're writing cursive writing in your spelling packet. And then, oh, I forgot to write on there a spelling test today, okay? So it's not on the board, but spelling test today. Grade 3 for math, you have a review of plotting the points on a coordinate plane. So that should be pretty easy to do that. Grade 4, we'll go through our lesson in a moment on common denominators, working with fractions still, okay? Should be wrapping up soon in the next few days, your junior park ranger packets, and letting me know that those are finished. On Wisconsin history, we are have another day yet to work on the Great Depression and World War I. Did any of you read this here section and decide to see if you could find out anything about your history at the 1940 census.archives.gov? Sounds interesting, doesn't it? Alrighty. And then we'll check this together tomorrow and have a test tomorrow as well. You're on letter number 4. Just a reminder, your letter writing is your grammar grade. So good sentences includes punctuation, the format of the letter, and different subjects, okay? You can't keep repeating the same letter over and over and over again, okay? I can tell that sometimes you don't read your letter before you send it to me, okay? Read your letter. Make sure it makes sense, that you haven't missed words in your sentences. You have this wonderful thing on the other end of your pencil. It's called an eraser. Thanks so much for doing that, okay? So grade 3, that's it for you. You can head off to do some work. Grade 4, let's grab your math books, a paper and a pencil, and let's do some work together, okay? If you need to pause the video to get those things, you go right ahead. I'm going to switch to my other camera, all right? Here we go. All right. So today we're going to talk about common denominators. Okay, common denominators. And when you think about common denominators, you think about them being the same. Okay, so we're going to make our denominators be the same, and you know that the denominator is the number at the bottom of the fraction. Numerator is on top, the denominator is on the bottom. So if you look at the top of page 730, it shows us 3/8 and 5/8. Well, 3/8 and 5/8 have a common denominator, 8. 3/8 and 5/9 do not. Okay, so 3/8, 5/8, common denominator right here. 3/8, 5/9, not a common denominator, not the same. Not the same, okay? All right, so sometimes it will tell you specifically what you need to change it to, like in example 1. Rename 2/3 and 3/4 so that they have a common denominator of 12. So here is how you want to show your work for that. Just like they have it there, you're going to do 2/3 times what gives you a denominator of 12, and you're also going to do the work for 3/4 times what fraction gives you a denominator of 12, okay? So it's just like what we did in our lesson a couple of days ago, but you're going to do it 2 times. So 2/3, what do I have to do with a 3 to get a 12? I have to multiply by 4. So I'm going to multiply by 4 over 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. So here's one answer. Now, what do I have to multiply by 4 to get 12? 3. So here I'm going to do 3 over 3. 3 times 3 is 9. We already have our 4 times 3 being 12. And so these are our 2 answers. And so you're going to have more than one answer in your box and work to do for both of them. All right. So now let's look at example 2. In example 2, it says rename 1/2 and 1/3 so they have a common denominator. Okay. So again, in your box, 1/2 and 1/3. So we have to think of what could we have for a common denominator? Well, oftentimes it's easy to just say, well, what can I if I multiply these two, what do I get? I get 6. So let's find what we would need to have for a denominator of 6. 2 times what gives me 6? 3. So 1 times 3 gives me 3. So here's one answer. 1/3 times what gives me a 6th? 3 times 2. So 2/2. All right. So see that we have a common denominator here. We have 6. So 3/6 and 2/6. We changed these fractions here to have a common denominator. And as in all kinds of math that we are doing, the reason we're working on these things is because we're going to need this skill to be able to do a different type of problem coming up here. Okay? So let's try the next one. Our example 3 says, let's do 1/3 and 1/6 to have a common denominator. Well, guess what I notice? I can keep this one as a 6. I don't have to change this one because I know that I can change a 3 to equal something with a 6. So what am I going to times that by to make this have a denominator of a 6th? We already did it. 1/3 times 2/2. So here we just had to do one set of work, and then this would be our other answer as well. So 2/6 and 1/6 are our two fractions for that one. Okay, so you don't always have to multiply them together. Look and see, can I do something with one of the denominators so that it's the same as the other one? Let's try our practice, okay? All right, so we have A. Make sure I'm in a spot where you can see my work. It says rename 1/2 and 1/5 so they have a common denominator of 10. So 1/2 times what gives us a fraction with 10 on the bottom. And for the other is 1/5. 1/5 times what gives me a fraction with 10 on the bottom. So 2 times 5 gives me 10. So that's going to be 5/5. 1 times 5 is 5. So my first answer is 5/10. 5 times 2 gives me 10. So I'm going to do it times 2/2. 1 times 2 is 2. So 5/10 and 2/10 are my two fractions. Let's do B. Rename 1/2 and 5/6 so they have a common denominator of 12. So 1/2 times what gives me a fraction with 12 on the bottom. And 5/6. 5/6 times what gives me, again, a fraction with 12 on the bottom. Well, 2 times 6 equals 12. So we're going to do 6/6. That makes this a 6 on top. There's my first answer. 6 times 2 gives me 12. 5 times 2 gives me 10. There's my second answer. All right. Now, our direction for a C, D, and F, it says rename each pair of fractions using their least common denominator. Okay? Well, a least common denominator means that we have to do the very lowest number that they could go into. Okay? The least common denominator for both of them, not just multiplying it together, but seeing what their multiples are. So let's take a look at C. All right, so this one should be easy. We have 1/2 and 2/3. So we think of our multiples of 2, 4, 6, 8. Those are easy. Now our multiples of 3. I'm just going to write them down here. 2, 4, 6, 8, and of course they continue. Our multiples of 3. 3, 6, okay, and then they continue. And what we look for is a common, least common denominator. So it's going to be 6. It's the first number we come to that is in both sets when we're counting by 2s and counting by 3s. So that's what we're going to use for our denominators. All right, so 2 times 3 gives me 6, so I'm going to do 3 over 3. So my first answer is 3/6. 3 times 2 gives me 6. So 2 over 2 here, and then 2 times 2 gives me 4. So that's my second answer. All right, let's try D. Let's see, I think I can fit that one over here. 1/3 and 1/4. So again, we think 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. We could keep going if we need to. 4, 8, 12. Aha, found one. That's the same. So 1/3 times what gives me a fraction with 12? 1/4 times what gives me a fraction with 12 as the denominator? This one is going to be 4 over 4, right? Because 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 4 is 4. There's our first answer. This one is going to be 3 over 3 because 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 3 gives me 3. Okay, so do you understand that least common denominator part? Let's do 2 more. All right, here we go with E. Make sure I'm still in the camera view here. E says 1/2 and 3/5. All right, so we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Ooh, I know that this is 5, 10, so I found my least common, 10. All right, 2 times 5 gives me 10, so this one is going to be 5/10. 5 times 2 gives me 10, so this one is going to be 6/10. So my two answers are 5/10 and 6/10. Now remember, I know for some of you I said, remember that each of your answers need to be reduced to simplest form. Well, this is an example when they're asking you to find a common denominator, they want you to be not in simplest form. You're going to, because you're giving a specific answer of what you need to have to make that denominator be the same. Okay, if I reduce this, I'm going to go back to 1/2. If I reduce this, I'm going to go back to 3/5. So leaving your answer as you have it here. One last one to try. 2/3 times what equals what? And 2/5. What do you think it will be? What do you think our least common denominator will be? Think it'll be 15? Let's check. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. We know this has to have a 5 or a 0. That's the first one that we come to with a 5. So you were right. Here it would be 5, 10, 15. You got it. So we're going to have a 15 as our common denominator. 3 times 5 gives me 15. So that means I have 5 over 5. 2 times 5 gives me 10. There's my first answer. 5 times 3 gives me 15. So here I've got 3 over 3. 2 times 3 gives me 6. There's my second answer. Okay? All right. Be sure, as you're looking at these in your lesson today, if you have any questions, give me a holler, okay? Okay, I wanted to talk to you about one other thing, and that is your what you have to do for problem solving today, okay? Think about what we did in our last investigation, okay? Where you had to have stacks of things, and how many would you have in one like against the wall, and then how many rows would you have forward? Okay, so be thinking about that as you are filling the box with DVDs to see how many DVDs you can fit. They're making it a little bit tricky because they've got measurements with fractions too, but you'll notice they match the size of the DVD, so it won't be too hard. So don't overthink it, okay? Make the DVD fit in so that it fits with the measurements of the box, okay? That will help you out. If you have any questions, make sure you give me a holler though. I'll be more than happy to help you with it, okay? All right, have a great day. Looking forward to hearing your memory treasure in a little bit. See you soon. Bye.